Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Sense for Thoughts. I'm Mo, and today I'm going to be talking about Amouage Reflection Man and touch a bit about Reflection 45 as well by Amouage, and talking you through the lessons that I've learned from this perfume. Yes, we're back here learning more and more about perfumes through reflection. Yes, I'm back again learning more about myself through my behavior and experiences with these perfumes. So Amouage Reflection Man is a perfume that I have bought and sold. This one 3 times and this one 2 times. So in total 5 times. And I will be selling one of these at the end of this video. Stick around to find out which one and why. Just a bit of information about Reflection Man. I'm sure you know what this smells like, and this is most certainly not a review. Okay, it's more of a reflection piece about my experience. But if, in case you don't, Reflection Man is basically the end game, final boss level of clean, soapy perfumes. So I have a ton of experience with clean, soapy perfumes. In my early 20s, I actually signature scented to work Prada L'Homme. And I had bought this big 150 ml bottle of Prada L'Homme. I used about 100 ml of it and then sold the remainder 50 ml off. So I do have a ton of experience with this style of perfumes, right? But I sold it because I wanted to experience other perfumes and I just was sick of it after wearing it for many years. So Amouage Reflection Man is very similar to me to Prada L'Homme. It might not have the same notes, but it has the same vibe, except this is like the super ultra niche version of it, where it's super high definition. It's like Prada L'Homme, it's like the perfume is in 720p, maybe even 480, and it's kind of buffering in terms of quality. You can't really get close and see all the details. This is like the same perfume, but in 4K definition. It's very well made, very high quality. You can smell the ingredients and the quality and the textures of the white florals. It's fantastic. Okay, there's no doubt about it. So lesson number 1 that I've learned with Amouage Reflection Man is that just because something is likable and popular doesn't mean that I should have it. Okay, this is by far Amouage's most popular perfume. This is by far Amouage's most easy to wear perfume. And this is by far the best in class soapy perfume. Soapy and clean kind of perfume, white florals for men. Okay, so this to me is a no-brainer kind of dumb reach for work perfume, and I'm praising it and I think it's fantastic. Every single time I bought it and sold it, and it's up for sale, by the way. This is up for sale. This is the 3rd time and final time that I'll be selling a Reflection Man. I just don't gravitate towards it. The use cases for this, for me, are quite limited to wearing it to work. And I find myself gravitating towards something a bit more masculine. And by masculine, I mean something a bit more old school. For example, Heritage by Guerlain. This is a nice old bottle of it. Simply because this is a bit too juvenile for me, okay? It's a bit too sweet. It's a little bit too white floral. It's a little bit indecisive in its masculinity. At work, I like perfumes that say, I'm the man, a bit more firmly, and kind of announce it in that way. Whilst this one is more like, I've had a shower and I'm kind of clean and I'm kind of inoffensive. Whilst the perfumes I like to wear to work these days as I've gotten older are very much more decidedly masculine and aggressive about the point. So lesson number 1 is that just because a perfume is popular and well made and is best in class doesn't mean that you should own it. And that's one thing that I've learned, because every single time I wear Reflection Man, I kind of wish I wore something else about an hour later, right? And it's just not acceptable for me. So on the very few occasions that I do pull the trigger on this one, I just wish I wore something a bit more masculine and exciting. Okay. Lesson number 2 is that performance does matter. Okay, I only wear Reflection Man to work. Okay, and the minimum hours that I work are 8.5 hours at the very bare minimum. usually around 9 up to 12, 12 and a half hours. Okay. This one for me is very, very quiet after the first few hours. And at a push will give me 5 hours of detectable wear. Now, I'm not trying to gather compliments. Matter of fact, I don't. Okay. And that's fine. I prefer it because when I do, it's incredibly awkward. I'm just like, do I say thank you? And then like, is that it? Anyway, that's the story for another day. But if this is gone and I can barely get any whiffs of it after about 3 or 4 hours, and then it just becomes a total skin scent, it doesn't do much for me because I need something that will keep giving me energy at work. And this simply doesn't do that. Okay. And on the weekends, I prefer to wear something a bit more exciting, a bit more interesting, a bit more risky, a bit more heavy perhaps. So this doesn't get any play. In the summer, I prefer to wear something a lot more citrusy and energetic. So this kind of is like a white shirt perfume, but it's just not interesting enough to wear at work for me. And it's just here collecting dust, so I will be getting rid of them. Lesson number 3 is price matters. Okay. The reason I kept on wearing Prada L'Homme for years, because it was very cheap and affordable, especially when you buy the big boy bottle like I did. And even though its performance is worse than Reflection, I would say is 4 to 5 hours, whilst Prada L'Homme is about 2 to 3 hours, to the point where by the time I arrive at work, the show was almost over with the Prada, right? But why did I not complain and keep Signature scenting it? Is because ultimately you get what you pay for. Okay, that bottle cost me maybe 60 to 70 pounds at the time on discount. That's fine, you get what you pay for. And I held on to that bottle for years simply because it didn't have a lot of value for me. There wasn't a lot of value put into that. But when you're spending a ton of money for a perfume, you kind of expect one of two things, for me personally. Okay, either stellar performance. Okay, we're talking it is clearly levels and levels and levels above the other scent profiles that are designer in that kind of field. And with this one, whilst it does improve, it doesn't give mind-boggling or crazy all-day performance. So that's one reason. Another lesson that I've learned is that when I buy a perfume and it's a niche, expensive perfume, if it's in the utility aspect and the performance is amazing, then that's fantastic. But if it doesn't, then it needs to provide some excitement or uniqueness or something of interest. And this simply doesn't provide that. I wore Le Male when I was growing up, which is a little bit similar to this. I also wore Prada L'Homme, very similar to this. And I feel like this is just a road that has been, very frequently traveled. And this just doesn't give me that excitement, unfortunately. So it's not unique and it's not masculine enough. And another reason is that it doesn't perform that well. That's number 5, is that I don't like sweet perfumes at all, because everything about this is amazing, but it's just a touch too sweet for me. And I find that sweetness a little bit irritating and somewhat cloying. And that is why I just don't gravitate towards this. When I am craving that white floral hit and a bit long-lasting performance, I turn to this guy over here, Reflection 45, which is the one that I will be holding on. This has a ton more resinousness and sandalwood in the base. And even though it's not shouty, it really does last all day and all night, especially if you spray quite a few of this, the 45% oils. Whilst it does sit close to the skin, if you really spray it on, get a nice layer going and your body warms up. So I like to do it under my shirt quite a lot because obviously it's the warmest place. You just keep getting whiffs of it all day long. They've definitely dialed down the sweetness of this one, and that suits me very, very well. And they've definitely made it a lot more decidedly masculine, but still clean and white floral. Orris and Jasmine are not exactly the most masculine scent profiles out there, but the resinousness and the woodiness really does help it stand on its own. So to me, this just suits my needs a lot more personally for this kind of scent profile. So I will be holding on to Reflection 45. Now, I have tried layering these two, and to be honest with you, the sweetness was a bit too much with the cloying, with the woodiness and the sweetness and the iris. It just became a bit too much. So I would not recommend layering these. It's a very expensive way to wear Reflection. If you really are in love with the sun profile and it is a signature for you, by all means, go for it. Another lesson that Reflection Man has taught me is that stick with your gut instinct. So I bought this because obviously it's the most popular Amouage for a reason. It's very wearable, very usable. You can signature scent this, wear this all day, all night, all year round, right? And I sold it because it wasn't getting much wears and it just wasn't that exciting, and I wanted to buy other things. And then I watched a few videos and I was like, oh, Reflection is really good, you know, let me get it again. Big mistake, because I sold that bottle and then I made that mistake again and I bought this one and now I'm selling it again. So the lesson that I've learned is that don't rebuy perfumes and stick with your gut instinct. If you, previous you, decided this one's not really for me, I'm going to sell it, you're probably going to feel the same way, especially if you've been in the perfume game for a very, very long time, like I have. If you are a bit new to the game, and let's say you've just got into perfumes 6 months ago and you smelled something and you didn't like it, chances are you will like it 6 months later. But if you have already owned it and you've given it some time and it's just not getting many wears, don't rebuy it when you do sell it, because chances are you're just going to want to get rid of it again, and it's just a waste of everyone's time, money, and time that you could be wearing other things and experiencing other perfumes. So that's how I feel about Reflection Man. Another lesson that I've learned from Reflection Man is that even though this is a technically perfect 10 out of 10 perfume and the best in class, it's okay for it to just not be for me. You know, not everything is for you. You know, you could go to a Michelin star restaurant that sells the best seafood in the world, but if you don't like seafood, then it doesn't matter how technically great this food is. It's just not to your tastes. And I much prefer a more masculine signature at work, personally. So this is my experience with Reflection Man. This bottle will hopefully be gone by the end of the week. Let me know, what do you think about Reflection Man? Do you love it? Do you hate it? How do you feel about bottles that you have sold and missed? Have you ever rebought a bottle? Have you ever rebought and then resold a bottle 5 times like I have? Hopefully not. Hopefully you're smarter than that. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.